What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. I finally am getting the thing I've wanted for my entire Overwatch career. Hero bans is getting added to a FACEIT tournament. It's currently being considered, but a leak has reported that they're working towards finalizing the format and already have a good idea of what it looks like it's going to be. Personally, I even want hero bans in ranked. My solution would be to let the tank player choose, because if the tank is going to get counterpicked all game anyway, at least you could choose what's going to counterpick you and have a much better experience. That probably would be one of the best ways to equalize and level out the scales of how punishing it is to play tank, in my opinion. But this is a system for FACEIT, which is like the tournament system that now is running both the pro leagues, or if you wanted like a more advanced team queue, anybody can join FACEIT. This is reported by Sasha Heinisch, if I'm saying that correctly. He goes by Yiska, and many leaks have come out from him. I believe he has a flawless track record, so I tend to think this is 100% accurate. Now, the article goes to say this: FACEIT has shared their intentions to bring a hero ban system to its Overwatch competitors for both its FACEIT League as well as the Esports World Cup, so all the way to the top, guys, and is currently collecting final feedback before going with the change. Over the last couple months, FACEIT has been talking to professional Overwatch teams competing in the Overwatch Championship Series, as well as its own FACEIT Pro League, to collect feedback on various topics. One recurring talking point has been seeking advice for a potential hero ban system, asking how the general concept would be received and which form it should take. According to sources who choose to remain anonymous, FACEIT announced to teams yesterday that it would be looking to implement a hero ban system for its FACEIT League and would also apply to the Esports World Cup. While the final call has not been made yet, and FACEIT is collecting further feedback, it has also teased the structure of the hero ban system it is looking to implement. FACEIT's current suggestion for the hero ban system, as communicated to competitors, sees both teams each be able to ban one hero per map. Said ban would only affect the opposing team, and each team is not allowed to ban a hero more than once a series. So those are some interesting caveats where your ban is just for the enemy team. And so if the enemy also wants you to not be able to play that, each one of you has to mirror the ban. And, well, one ban at a time is quite limited. You can't use the same one for the whole series. You can really only isolate a specific hero for that map, and then the enemy team will be allowed to play it for the rest of the series. In an esports tournament with multiple maps getting played, I think this is a pretty safe option. Like, everybody's fears of hero bans is the ultimate chaos and destruction of how bad it can get, but it's not banning that much. Like, you can't get multiple synergies out of the way just by banning one hero. That's not really going to happen. There's quite a lot of overlap in the game already with, I believe, are we at 40 heroes already? And then on top of that, because they play in a series, it's not like you're going to just completely remove someone's best hero for, you know, the entire series. You can't just isolate someone's star player and ban them out of the game effectively for a given meta. That's not even possible. So you could target the player over and over and ban other heroes they play, perhaps, but yeah, you can't eliminate one hero in entirety. The article goes on to say teams are allowed to ban the same hero at the same time, resulting in both teams not being able to pick the said hero for the remainder of the map. The higher seed in each series will be the second team to choose the hero they would like to remove from their opponent's choice, with the loser of each map receiving said privilege after each subsequent map. So just like loser picks, there's a big benefit in a tournament or multi-map series that if the loser gets to pick the map and the ban, I'm not sure if that's the case with this tournament or not, that's like pretty powerful and allows you to at least have a fighting chance and stops the extreme snowballs and 3 Overwatch that tends to happen, because in a lot of cases when one team, even if they're like normally equal, a lot of times in Overwatch metas, those teams might have like an equal chance to win across the entire like year, let's say, but a certain patch hits them in a certain way and one team's amazing at it, one isn't, and then you can just get blown out based on who's better at that given meta. Well, with bans, at least you can at least try to claw back and get the gameplay a little bit more in your hands, and you're gonna have less blowouts because of this, especially if you get to pick the map and also limit the meta dominance of the enemy team by thinning out the roster just a little bit. According to a message shared with competitors, FACEIT hopes to, quote, foster greater diversity in competitive Overwatch with said introduction. The tournament organizer is currently considering putting the system into action starting with the regular season of FACEIT League, which could be as early as April 29th. So just a few days away, under a week. In the statement to GG Recon, a FACEIT spokesman said, "We are looking for new ways to offer players the best experiences on FACEIT. Open discussions with teams and the Overwatch community are essential when considering new features. The hero ban is in the exploratory phase, and we have no immediate plans to introduce it on FACEIT." That's their public statement, but of course, Sasha's kind of reporting that they might do it faster based on the leaks that he's received. A Blizzard Entertainment spokesperson stated to GG Recon that they currently have nothing to share on the subject of FACEIT's plans for hero bans. As in, we know that they've teased hero bans. Oh, this is the developers now from Blizzard, because remember, these are two different entities. Now that Blizzard doesn't own the esport in entirety, then private organizers like FACEIT in this case can say, well, we think the game would be improved by doing that. Let's just test it out. Let's have a tournament here or there with different formats. This is what I've wanted for years and years, right? To at least see this in action, to know what we do and don't like. And well, I think it would be smart for Blizzard to at least let this play out from a third party, let all the mistakes get made over there, and then figure out how they can implement it into the game in the fairest way possible. The article goes on to say, FACEIT had announced its own multi-tiered Overwatch system for teams ranging from hobbyists to professional teams, also offering invite slots to the Esports World Cup as part of its rewards for the best performing teams in its Masters League. Okay, so I think FACEIT is a thing I haven't toyed around with quite yet, but I'm excited to try to get into this, especially from like a medium tier level, because I've always wanted hero bans. I think that's partly going to make the strategy of this game, which is so counter comp and counter pick reliant, a lot more fun to play. The reality is, like, people, they argue about Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, and counter picking was a thing in Overwatch 1. It just happened behind the scenes. Like, counter picking was so strong and counter comping was so insane, you wouldn't even attempt to play a bad comp, competitively speaking. So you had to play the top meta comp that was meta resilient, because if you even tried for 5 seconds to play something that wasn't the meta comp, you'd get blown out. So the majority of Overwatch 1's life cycle, that's the way it worked. You just, like, whatever was the most meta resilient, not necessarily the strongest peak potential, but the one that you didn't have to swap off of, lose your ultimate, and just risk wasting time playing a bad comp, that's what you would default to. Now, that still happens a bit in Overwatch 2, and there's certain comps that have that same personality, but there's way more opportunity for counter-stratting or like unique play styles that revolve around a certain player on your team is really good at, I don't know, Reinhardt, Widowmaker, whatever. You can really craft strategies in 5v5 like that, more team-oriented kind of way. And then, of course, as we know, in Overwatch 2 ranked, in solo queue, or just playing with randoms in general, it's very easy to counterpick anybody on the enemy team. Usually you want to focus on counterpicking the tank because that's the guy in front, so it's a little bit easier, but you can counterpick anything. Something I've noticed that's kind of a recurring theme, which is something I want to advocate for more. I heard this on the Group Up podcast that came out yesterday, that I think it should be a new cultural norm that we institute in Overwatch, that it isn't just about the TikTok circle of counter picks for tanks. As Jake said on Twitter long ago, and kind of defending the 5v5 format, you can make any tank matchup work if you swap your squishies, but everybody wants the easiest route to playability, and they just want the tank to swap, so they don't have to. But if you're playing a Doomfist into Doomfist counters, there is a way that you can lean in your entire comp to try to save them and get more value out of that dive. It might not be like as reliable or as easy to do, but you can make any tank matchup work. You can do it if you just play other heroes. But for some reason in our community, we expect the tank player to have to play 10 heroes to do the same thing, to match around not getting countered by the enemy, but to match with the teammates they have. And the thing that I've learned, and I'm going to be making a big video about this, about my tank experience, guys, like anyone who's been watching the stream maybe has realized what we've been going for. I'm shooting to get up to 1,000 games played on tank. I played over 700 in season 9, and well, I learned a lot through how the community treats tank players, the expectations, and having to try to learn the role properly myself, as before I didn't play as many heroes. But in this new version of Overwatch, if you're not playing a handful of tank heroes, it's kind of miserable and your whole team hates you, which I don't experience on the other roles because I know how to counter pick or swap into the different team comp archetypes to lean into a better play experience. For example, there's certain heroes that make tank life miserable on your team, like you can't really go aggressive if you have an Allari teammate. The Allari might be amazing, but all their value is kind of located in the backline, kind of similar to a DPS Moira teammate, which I don't mind playing around because I know how they function. Just jump in with them aggressively, feed, and try to trade out kills. These are different playstyles that can exist in the game, and it could be a beautiful thing we all understood, but ultimately the game's too freaking complex. We're all good at certain aspects of this very complex game, and the more agency we have in each individual match of Overwatch, whether it's at a high tier competitive level or in our own ranked games, to at least craft the experience around our own understanding of what we want to do, the better it's going to be. And the reason I think the tank player should get to choose is because ultimately most of the team's going to look to them to be like, hey buddy, we need you on Zarya or Orisa, play a dive tank, play a this tank. And if your skill set isn't really attuned to that, well, that's going to be tough. So if you have the ability to ban in ranked, I think then you would be able to at least allow your game to be a bit more playable, and it would let everybody else on your team feel that as well, because they're ultimately looking to play around you usually and don't want to take any responsibility for improving your experience or value most of the time, it seems. But I think that's something we could change culturally as well. Guys, are you excited for hero bans to finally get instituted? I'm going to be watching this closely, definitely analyzing the game, see what things evolve. We have seen some medium tier tournaments many years ago run hero bans, and then of course there was the really ugly segment of time where we had hero pools, which nobody ever wanted. It doesn't make any sense, and we're going to erase that from history. Was not the system we're looking at now. This is very new and exciting, and well, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. I will be live streaming both on Twitch and here on the YouTube channel when this video comes out, so come hop in the stream and tell me what you think. We can have a conversation about the whole hero ban situation. So if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.